Thank you to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for sponsoring this video. Hello everyone, I'm Eternal Flame here, and I'm here today to cover a topic I did in the past, but the video got deleted, but I feel I can do this topic a lot better now. With Jogo about to fight Sukuna in the anime, I decided, you know what, let's cover an oldie but a goodie. Yuji versus Jogo, and why this fight is likely closer than a lot of people think on both sides. Because I will admit, in the old video, I actually downplayed Jogo a lot. However, I do think in this video, I give both of them the credit they deserve, and that both of them are actually really close in terms of an actual fight itself, and that both deserve to stop being downplayed. However, before we even get into this video, be sure to like and subscribe, and let's get into Punchy Punchy Boy versus Mount Fuji Head. Now, I do just want to say this at the start, this video is going to be covering purely how strong Yuji is right before he fights against Sukuna, purely because we don't know how strong Yuji is when he fights against Sukuna alongside Higuruma. So basically, we're going to cover all of Yuji scaling all the way up to chapter 214, and how strong Yuji is in chapter 214, and we're going to place that Yuji against Jogo. Now, I'm not going to go over all of Yuji's scaling, only the important parts, mainly because I already have a really long video covering how strong Yuji is and his entire journey, but I'm going to be covering how strong Yuji is and how strong the Yuji we're going to put against Jogo is. So yeah, go check that video if you want a full extensive look on how strong Yuji is in general, but let's now get into actually comparing their stats. Because while they do have some comparable stats, and like it's not like one is massively over the other, I do think one of them has quite a general stat advantage in comparison to the other opponent. So first we're going to talk about Jogo's stats, and then I'm going to get into Yuji's stats, starting with speed, because I feel speed is the easiest thing to go over for both of these characters. Now, to explain Jogo's speed, we need to directly explain the character that he scales semi-relative to, which is a character known as Naobito, the second fastest sorcerer that Dagon directly says that Naobito is fast and he's probably faster than Jogo. Now, this statement implies that Jogo and Naobito are around the same speed level, however, Naobito is a bit faster than Jogo, which is incredibly impressive considering Naobito is called the second fastest sorcerer, and to some people who do believe that Jogo later on blitzes Naobito, he does blitz Naobito, but this is a significantly slower Naobito, as the narrator goes on to state, Naobito became known as the fastest Jujutsu sorcerer excluding Satoru Gojo. However, that was when he still had his right arm, i.e., Naobito is slower than he was before and not called the second fastest Jujutsu sorcerer because he no longer has his right arm, and that was what allowed Jogo to blitz him. So yeah, Jogo is slower than Naobito, which is incredibly impressive, and now let's get into where Yuji scales speed-wise and why Naobito is someone so incredibly important. There are two ways you can use to scale Yuji's speed, which is really dependent on whether you think Naobito is faster than Curse Naoya or Curse Naoya is faster than Naobito. Now, the first method is by saying Naobito is faster than Curse Naoya, and due to it being stated that the Zenin clan is alive because of Toji's whim, and Toji could basically kill the Zenin clan whenever he wanted, with the narrator stating that a demonic fighter equal to that of Toji Zenin, being Maki Zenin, had been fully realized, and Yuji being able to keep up with Maki after Maki directly told Yuji that she was going to speed up a bit, and Yuji directly shows that he's capable of keeping up, you can create a scaling chain to put Yuji as relative to Maki, who is relative to Naobito, through being equal to Toji Zenin. Furthermore, Yuji is also incredibly injured at the time he is keeping up with Maki due to repeatedly taking several cleaves, and while these are suppressed cleaves, they were making him bleed nonetheless, so he was weakened while he was already keeping up with Maki. Either that, or you can say Maki is faster than Curse Naoya, and due to Curse Naoya being built to actually move at that speed and having a much more durable body, he is able to achieve speeds that Naobito and his human body could not achieve, putting Naoya as even faster than Naobito, who Maki is able to outspeed to the point where Naoya is actually getting frustrated with Maki's speed, who, as I just went over, Yuji can keep up with Maki's speed. So to put it simply, you can either say Yuji is relative but a bit faster than Jogo due to having relativity to someone who should have relativity to Naobito in speed, but it's like a small amount of Yuji is faster than Jogo. Or you can say Yuji is massively faster than Jogo due to scaling to Maki, who I just went over the entire Naoya scaling. Either of them work, and I'm going to leave that one up to you, as we're now going to get into durability and strength. Now, unfortunately, despite Jogo being Mount Fuji, he actually really heavily lacks in durability. Unlike our sponsor, whose theme is ironically enough Mount Fuji, which we're going to get into now. Now, before we continue on with this video, I want to talk about one of our reoccurring sponsorships to this channel, Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. Huge thanks to for sponsoring this channel once again. Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. are both monthly subscription-based boxes that are both about sending out Japanese snacks to people around the world in order to share the culture of Japan and how they snack with different people in the world. Where Sakura Co. is a lot more based on traditional types of snacks that are held within Japanese households, however Tokyo Treat is a lot more based on modern types of snacks instead. Where each of these boxes also come with their own special booklets in order to translate the Japanese text that they have, as well as give a little bit more info on the snacks themselves for the reader so they can get a better understanding of the snacks, as well as learn more about what is inside of snacks and their history itself. So you can both learn while you snack, and it's actually really cool too, because like these booklets look really amazing and they're just a lot of fun to go through if you ever just feel like something to read in your off time while you snack in the process, because they're fun and they're short. But let's actually get into the boxes themselves, starting out with Tokyo Treat. Tokyo Treat's current theme this month is known as the Mount Fuji Snack Adventure, where the enchanting fall season is upon us, so what better way to savor this perfect season than amidst the majestic mountains? And as a result of that, they have several snacks that are going to be based on this. One such snack is the Mount Fuji Sandwich Cookie, which is one I extremely recommend. It's my personal favorite out of everything we got out of this box, and it tasted really good. Like, I was surprised by the taste of it, and like I don't know what I was expecting, but it tastes really good, as well as the Mount Fuji Green Tea Cake, because I'm someone who really likes green tea a lot. Surprise, the flame person likes green tea. But yeah, they both tasted really good and they both just fit really well into the actual theme itself. But cookies aren't your thing? Don't worry, we also got these chocolate almonds for you as well that taste really good. There's just snacks for everyone in these boxes and enough to share with your entire family, because I usually end up sharing this with my family too, and they all love it. It's not just me who loves it too, it's just all of them in general. But now we're going to move on to the Sakura Co. boxes, because this is only Tokyo Treat. You can get 2 boxes, where the Sakura Co. is specifically from the Wonders of Saitama, where Sakura Co. partners have partnered with Saitama City for a limited edition special design box. And seriously, look at this box and look at how beautiful it is. Where the treat that I tried out in this box is known as the Milk Castilla Cakes, and it's a really good one. It is my personal favorite from this box, and it's the one I'd absolutely recommend most, as well as them giving you your own tableware for this month of the Wasaka Crane Chopsticks. And I'm not gonna lie, I legit had to learn how to use chopsticks just so I could actually use these, because man, I am planning to use these pretty often, because like I'm decent with chopsticks, but I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get better now that I have these special limited edition chopsticks. And if you like snacks like this, I would really recommend getting this for yourself. It is 100% worth the subscription. You're not going to regret it, because all of the food is great and it's snacks I'd snack on again. So a huge thanks to Tokyo Treat and Sakura Co. for sponsoring this video. Now you might be wondering, why do I say he really lacks in durability? Now his durability isn't as bad as that, but he doesn't have as many durability feats as people think, and we also know his hard limit, where it's directly stated by Gege if Jogo took the amount of attacks that Hanami took in Goodwill from the 5 block flashes of Yuji in Goodwill, and Todo's Curse Energy infused Playful Cloud Strikes as Hanami had taken, Jogo would have died instantly. With Jogo making the comment, those attacks never would have hit me anyway. And considering Yuji in Goodwill is strong enough to harm Hanami even without the Black Flash punches after landing the first Black Flash, Yuji's punches are definitely going to do quite a bit of damage to Jogo if they can land in Goodwill, let alone Yuji right now. And I think the purpose of this entire statement is to say Jogo's speed is the equivalent of Hanami's durability. Now, some people might be confused by why I'm saying that. Basically, if you were to stat them out and they both had a stat of 50 stat points, where Jogo's speed would be a 30, Hanami's durability would be a 30. That is basically what I am saying by that, where Jogo's speed is the equivalent of Hanami's durability for his own defense. After all, what better defense is there than never getting hit to begin with? However, there is one massive misconception that I know I will probably have to debunk, which is the fact that Jogo tanked a red, which yesn't. Jogo did tank a red directly from Gojo. I won't take away from that because that is a feat he has. Unfortunately though for Jogo, he didn't tank anywhere near a full power red, and Gojo was heavily holding back because he wanted to interrogate Jogo after. However, I do want to go into why we know for a fact that this red wasn't anywhere near Gojo's full power. Gojo was still wearing his blindfold at that time, which we know the blindfold is a nerf to him considering every time he enters into battle, he requires to take off the blindfold in order to actually use his domain expansion, and he uses the blindfold to not overwhelm his brain with how powerful the 6 size actually is, even with the RCT constantly active. We also know directly early on in Shibuya when Gojo and Jogo had their little hand-to-hand clash with Hanami being there, Jogo directly thinks to himself that he would have been dead in that little clash if it wasn't for the fact that he was keeping domain amplification up, something that neutralizes Gojo's curse techniques. So unless you think Gojo's blue amped fists are stronger than red, which we know are directly not true considering red takes up double the amount of curse energy in order to make, then yeah, Jogo unfortunately just doesn't scale to red. On top of that, 15-finger Yuji Kuna is able to rip off parts of Jogo's body, and I don't think 15-finger Yuji Kuna is that much stronger than red, unless Gojo was suppressing it, which we know for a fact Gojo was suppressing it, considering the fact he wanted to interrogate Jogo, which is why he didn't immediately execute him after using his domain on Jogo. And after capturing Jogo's head, he tries to start interrogating Jogo until Hanami saves him. So now let's go into Jogo's AP with both his abilities as well as his general hand-to-hand combat. Now his general hand-to-hand combat is relative to, if not even greater than Hanami, who Hanami is able to keep up with both Yuji and Todo at the same time in the Goodwill arc, who Yuji at this point is already relative to the likes of Nanami, which is incredibly impressive, which basically means, in terms of just pure raw hand-to-hand curse energy reinforcements, Jogo would probably beat Nanami in a fight, so yeah, have fun with that. But he doesn't even need that because he also has his lava and fire-based attacks, which are able to cause critical damage to Nanami, Maki, and Naobito. Granted, they are tired from the domain fight, but still. With Yuji stating upon seeing Jogo early on that Jogo's power exceeds anything he had seen before, and by this point he already had seen a finger bearer, which those finger bearers are able to push Megami incredibly hard until Megami got strong enough to awaken a domain expansion. On top of being able to fill literal buildings with lava, and having comparable amounts of curse energy if we highball Jogo extremely to 8 or 9 fingers, which if you were to give that a curse energy value, that would be a bit less than Yuta Akotsu due to Yuta being half of Sukuna's curse energy value, which is going to be very important for his maximum attack later. However, that's basically where all of Jogo's AP scales to, where his base raw AP is likely around Nanami level, if not a bit better. However, his AP through his lava and fire-based attacks should massively exceed that of Nanami, but you can't really say where they actually end up scaling to and where that would lead to in the scale. And now let's get into Yuji's scaling and where Yuji scales to in both durability and attack potency. Now Yuji's best durability feat in the entire series is tanking a Sukuna punch that launched him through a building and appeared to have knocked Yuji out. However, Yuji near immediately got back up after a few seconds of having to recover, and the fact that Yuji can live through this punch at all is incredibly impressive because of the fact Sukuna was expecting Yuji to have died from this punch, despite Sukuna knowing exactly what Yuji was capable of surviving, being hits from True Form Mahito, as well as a black flash from Mahito when Yuji was incredibly depressed and basically at his lowest point because he just watched Nobara die, and then Mahito landed a black flash and rapidly bombarded Yuji with attacks, but Yuji still didn't die. However, Sukuna expected this hit, this single punch, to have actually killed Yuji, and before people say Sukuna underestimates Yuji, he really doesn't, because the reason why we know for fact Sukuna doesn't underestimate Yuji is he was not expecting Yuji at all to lose to Choso. He literally says, "How could you lose to such riffraff?" And he's actually surprised that Yuji lost. So if anything, Sukuna overestimates Yuji a little bit. But either way, Sukuna is an incredibly meticulous person. He wanted Yuji dead, and that hit likely exceeds a lot of previous hits we have seen in the series that Yuji has tanked. And then Yuji goes on to fight Sukuna a bit more after. Alright, now let's move on to AP. So you guys know how I said Jogo probably is stronger than Goodwill Yuji in terms of hand-to-hand combat, right? You see, Yuji right now has a total of 7 tiers in between Yuji in Goodwill and Yuji in the Sukuna fight. If you want a much more in-depth explanation for how Yuji has surpassed himself that many times, go check out the How Strong is Yuji video where I go much more in-depth. But basically, Yuji in Goodwill is the bottom of this, then there's Yuji after he fully realized his purpose while fighting Choso and after turning all of his negative emotions into cursed energy. Then there's Yuji in the Mahito fight, who just finished getting Sukuna wiping out an entire city and dealing with all those negative emotions that created even more cursed energy. Then there's Yuji at the end of Shibuya, who landed a Black Flash, amping himself up by 120%. Then there's Demon God Yuji, who is a Yuji that is recovering from all of these fights and learning how to control his cursed energy even better. As Choso notes, the last time they fought, he had power, but now he has finesse. And this Yuji is a demon god in comparison to what he was before, despite seeing Yuji fight against Kenjaku. Then there's fully recovered Yuji, which is demon god Yuji but fully healed. And there's finally Yuji in the Sukuna fight, where Sukuna directly makes a comment that he is surprised at the strength that Yuji has gained. Even if we highball Jogo up to put Jogo around the same power as Yuji in the Mahito fight, because we just say Jogo's AP in terms of hand-to-hand exceeds that of normal form Mahito, who Yuji is also physically stronger than, albeit relative to normal form Mahito, then he's still just 4 tiers below normal Yuji in terms of hand-to-hand combat, and that's a bare minimum assumption. So yeah, in terms of attack, potency, and durability, Yuji massively exceeds Jogo, as well as in speed, he is relative to Jogo, albeit a bit faster. However, these base free physical stats are not everything. After all, Jogo has a massive advantage over Yuji, which is his curse technique and his abilities. However, first I am going to go over Yuji's abilities, purely because Yuji's abilities are a lot simpler to explain. So Yuji just has Cursed Energy Reinforcement, the ability to imbue his Cursed Energy into projectiles and make projectiles for that, as he shows off against Helicopter Man. He has the Divergent Fist, which Divergent Fist is basically a second impact hit after the first impact. And finally, he has the Black Flash, which while he can't use the Black Flash at will, it is stated by the narrator that in the Mahito fight, Yuji was doing so amazing that he would make you think that he's using the Black Flash at will. And it's not like he's going to be against someone like Sukuna, who he's going to be so angry against he can't focus on using the Black Flash, or it's not going to be someone who just took away his ability to use Curse Energy in general. So the Black Flash is still completely on the table for Yuji to use in this fight. Okay, so now we're going to get into Jogo's abilities and Jogo's techniques. Up first, Jogo has the Ember Insects, which the Ember Insects are projectiles that can explode and cause large amounts of lava upon exploding, while also causing a large amount of sound to be erupted through the area. He also has access to his Disaster Flames, where after he palm strikes someone, he can launch flames out, or he can launch little volcanoes out that can launch out their own beams. Finally, Jogo does have Maximum Meteor, as well as his own domain expansion. I'm going to go over the domain expansion first, because it's the less contentious of the point we need to argue, where while we haven't seen Jogo's domain sure hit yet, we do know domains amp up all of your stats as well as your technique by 120%, so it's going to be a pretty big buff to help the stat difference between Yuji and Jogo, so long as Jogo does open up his domain. And most of all, the attacks are going to appear instantly on Yuji's body, as shown with all of the other sure hits. However, they do not bypass Cursed Energy Reinforcement-based defenses. I do want to get that out the way. So now let's get into Maximum Meteor, that I know is going to be the biggest headache of this video, because that is the smoking bullet of all Jogo fans. Now, Maximum Meteor is an incredibly powerful attack, one that Sukuna agrees with Jogo would be capable of damaging him. Now, we don't know the degree it would have damaged Sukuna, however, it was still capable of damaging Sukuna. So let's highball this and say it would have caused massive damage, would have forced him to have to use RCT to heal himself. There's one small, tiny issue with it, and that issue is very simple: if it hit. Because the issue with Maximum Meteor is, it's an extremely slow attack. Now, some of you guys might be saying, Sukuna dodged it, that doesn't make it slow. You see, an extremely slow character dodged the attack after being held still for a few minutes by Sukuna, and that character is Panda. You see, Panda unfortunately drags down this attack that would do massive amounts of damage down heavily, because it could not hit Panda after Sukuna held Panda and Kusakabe down there for a few seconds. Now, if it was just Kusakabe, it wouldn't be so bad, purely because Kusakabe does have some relative scaling to current Yuji. However, granted that scaling is questionable, but at least you could make an argument that Kusakabe has some scaling to Yuji. Panda is not the same. Now yes, Panda did need to use the Gorilla Heart in order to actually dodge Maximum Meteor. but the Gorilla Heart is only around semi-grade 1 level due to scaling to Mechamaru, who's semi-grade 1 level. I don't think you guys want me to go into the distance between Gorilla Mode Panda and Yuji's speed. So for the sake of this video, just know, Maximum Meteor is way too slow to do anything whatsoever towards Yuji at all. Now we've gone over the stats, some of you guys might be thinking, Yuji is massively stronger and much more durable while having enough speed to be faster than Jogo, but not by much. So why is this at all a relative fight? And that is because there are some ways Jogo can win, and I have a few scenarios of how I think this fight would go, and yeah, let's get into these scenarios. Now, in character, though, is the first scenario that we're going to go with, and unfortunately for Jogo, he loses really badly in character because of how Jogo fights in particular. In every single confrontation we see Jogo in, he immediately goes for close-range hand-to-hand combat while shooting out lava at an opponent. In the first fight with Gojo, in the fight against everyone who fought against Dagon, in the fight against Sukuna. All of these fights, Jogo immediately goes for hand-to-hand, and that is the worst possible situation against someone as relentless and fast as Yuji, who is going to pummel Jogo into the ground and not give him a chance to run away because Jogo went in for hand-to-hand directly. Basically, because of the massive stat disparity in how Jogo fights, usually in character this really isn't a way for Jogo to win. And some of you guys might be wondering, Jogo can just fire a direct lava attack once he gets close enough to Yuji. There is a pretty good chance Yuji legit might just walk through the lava attack, because I am just going to say this now, if Nanami, after being heavily injured from fighting Dagon, is capable of surviving Jogo's flames, a Yuji who is massively stronger is going to survive those flames as well, and just be able to keep putting on the beating onto Jogo. Now, if all you care about is an in-character fight and how they would fight in character and how that would go, that is your answer for how I see an in-character fight would go, because Jogo's biggest disadvantage is how he fights as a character. However, if you want to see the strategy that Jogo could actually implement, I'm going to go into that now. So I'm going to plug my controller into Jogo and show how Jogo could have beaten Yuji when there are two strategies that could be used with Jogo's particular abilities on how to beat Yuji, considering the massive stat discrepancy between the two of them. And that is by having Jogo camp in the distance and repeatedly just spam ember insects and send them flying at Yuji until Yuji eventually dies from the massive amount of damage he is going to be taking from this. Now, is this a coward strategy? Yes. However, Jogo does not do well at all if he tries to go for direct hand-to-hand at Yuji, so he's going to need to play a distance and range game, and this is going to take a while. This also admittedly has its own risks, because Yuji can very easily pick up some of the, magma as a result of the ember insects exploding, and then throw it right back at Jogo, which if it hits is going to do quite a bit of damage, on top of the fact Yuji can't dodge. However, this is a much better strategy for Jogo to use, rather than just directly trying to go in for hand-to-hand and immediately dying and getting bombarded into the ground, and that's the end of the fight. So this is one of the ways Jogo can win, by being a camper and a COD player. And the other way is Jogo immediately opens up his domain expansion and bombards Yuji with constant attacks while keeping a distance and making sure Yuji doesn't get to him. This is going to take some time, and if you think Yuji is durable enough to survive the domain right before reaching Jogo and punching him in the face repeatedly and starting to beat him, or he's fast enough to make sure the domain doesn't catch him in it, then this is not a win con for him. However, if you don't think either of these are the case, then Jogo wins, even though it's going to be extremely high diff, because he's going to have to immediately go to his domain. These are the only two ways I can actually see him winning this fight, though. However, I do want to note this, and this is one of the most important things. I don't think the biggest disadvantage is Yuji's stats. I think the biggest disadvantage in this fight is how Jogo fights, purely because Yuji is someone who is an incredibly bad matchup for Jogo right now. Someone incredibly durable, physically strong, and incredibly fast. If it was Yuji in the arc before he fights against Sukuna, if it was Yuji pre-Chapter 214, Jogo would still win this fight. I do want to note that it required a massive amp from getting Sukuna free from his body in order for him to have a chance against Jogo and win this fight. Now, admittedly, I still think Yuji wins, and it's a really close fight. However, it's a really interesting fight to talk about nonetheless. Maybe I'm downplaying Yuji, maybe I'm downplaying Jogo, maybe I'm highballing both of them, who knows? I want to see what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. I'm gonna see you all later. Peace out, keep things nice, please. See you later, peace.